Okay, so today I'm going to make two variations of a hot toddy. This first one is pretty much what I grew up on. At least that's what my dad would make. He'd use lemon, honey, of course I know my honey's crystallized, and he'd use some hot water, and his liquor of choice to put in a hot toddy was Crown Royal whiskey. Today I'm going to be using an apple brandy or Calvados. I don't suggest you run out and get Calvados. Typically, whiskey is the go-to for a hot toddy. So you could use something like brandy, whiskey, bourbon, or even a dark rum. Those work. Okay, so this first hot toddy is very simple. I'm going to add maybe a tablespoon or two of freshly squeezed lemon juice, around 2 teaspoons of honey, again mine is crystallized, but it works, and some hot water, maybe around 6 ounces of hot water. I'm going to give everything a mix until that honey is dissolved. And then I'm going to add some liquor. Today, again, I'm going to be using brandy. Again, growing up, my dad would add whiskey. And I'd ask, how much whiskey are you going to add, Dad? Well, as much as I need to forget I have a cold is what he would say. So that's it. This is a pretty simple and basic hot toddy, and it does get the job done, especially when you are cold, congested, stuffy, and a sore throat. But today I'm going to do a different spin on this. Here I have 1 Korean pear or Asian pear. I'm also going to be using some sugar. Today I'm using a raw cane sugar. You can use a sugar of your choice. I'm also using some fresh ginger and 1 long cinnamon stick. If you're using like the shorter ones, use a couple of cinnamon sticks. So what I'm essentially going to do is make a tea with this Korean pear. My mother-in-law swears by this. Every time one of the kids gets sick or we have a cough, she says, make this tea. So I'm going to show you how I do that, and it absolutely does help with a sore throat and that nagging cough you get with a cold. So first I've rinsed my ginger and I'm just going to slice it up. Okay, and next I am actually going to peel my Asian pear, and you probably want to use something like a paring knife and not a ginormous chef knife that looks totally dangerous. Trust me, I do this all the time, but I don't suggest you do that for safety reasons. I'm being really irresponsible here by using this, but I am actually in a hurry, and I find when I'm using one knife, I use it for everything. So anyways, peel your pear. You could actually boil it with the skin on, but I want to eat it, so I just discard the skin. And I'm just going to cut this into slices. I'm also going to cut out that center core to make it easier to eat. I'm also going to be using 2 quarts of water. I've already placed it in my pot, and now I'm going to add the ginger and the pear, and I'm also going to add that cinnamon stick. So what I'm doing here is going to bring the water up to a boil. Once the water comes up to a boil, then I'm going to allow it to simmer and gently boil for 15 minutes. Do not start your 15-minute cook time until the water starts boiling like this. Okay, so now that it's gently boiling, I am going to cover it with a lid. Once it's covered, I am going to lower the heat. I'm going to let this simmer at around a medium to medium low heat. I don't want it to boil over while the lid is on. So now I'm just going to let this simmer and boil and steep for 15 minutes. Be sure to check the description below for the ingredients and measurements used for this recipe. Okay, so it has been 15 minutes, and now I am going to add my sugar. So the ratio of sugar is completely up to you and to your preference. I'm going to start with a 1/4 cup because my husband really doesn't like this super sweet, but I like it sweeter. So what I'll do is just serve myself a cup and add honey to it after. So if you want to add more sugar, you probably could use a 1/3 cup for this, and that would be fine. Okay, so I'm going to let this continue simmering for 5 minutes until the sugar is dissolved. Then it's done. By the way, you guys always ask about this little long spoon. It's actually my son's baby spoon that I purchased at the Korean supermarket. That's for those of you that always ask about my long little spoons. Okay, so I'm just going to mix this up until the sugar's dissolved and let it continue simmering for around 5 minutes, and I'm ready to serve myself a delicious cup of hot toddy. after I serve this cup of tea, I'm going to add that extra honey, which is what I like. So I'm going to add an extra teaspoon of honey to sweeten it. And I wanted to show you, I'm using a natural and unfiltered Texas honey because sometimes I know you guys notice that my honey is really dark. That might have something to do with it. It's not, a light colored one. I'm also going to add some of the pear because after I drink this, I do like to eat the pear. Again, the health benefits of this Asian pear works wonders with a nagging cough, and it also has other health benefits. I'll put some info for you guys in the description. So I've added some of the ginger, the pear, and now I'm adding that brandy. Again, you can use whiskey. That's what I grew up on, Crown Royal, or something like Jack Daniels, bourbon, rum. It's your choice. So I'm going to give it a good mix, and here are my two variations of a classic hot toddy. Well, one not so classic, but it really is delicious. And even if you do not want to use liquor in this ginger pear tea, you can have it all on its own. I give this to my children, obviously without the liquor, and it really does help their cough. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.